Thank you for joining, everybody. I hope you can hear me all right. I had you all join muted, but as we get into the Q&A, feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand or ask questions in the chat. That'll be fine. This is going to be very informal, so don't hesitate to ask questions if anything's unclear and so forth. I'm just going to give like a 5-10 minute overview of a few things and a very quick demo of how this MFA stuff works. And then we'll just let it be a free-for-all for questions and so forth. So to start with, although most of you that I see on the session right now know who I am, but we've got a lot of new people around MBARI who I may not have met in person yet. So I'm Todd Ruston. I'm the head of the Information Systems Group. And so I'm sorry if I haven't had an opportunity to meet you yet, but I look forward to doing so in the future. We're going to go over what this multi-factor authentication stuff is all about and why we're doing it. So starting out, what's multi-factor authentication, or what is MFA? MFA is basically another level of authentication. So you're very familiar with username and password to log into things all over the place. MFA adds another layer onto that, and typically that's implemented as something you have. So it might be your phone, or it might be a hardware token, and we'll look at these in more detail in a minute. You may already be familiar with this when working with your bank. When you log into your online bank, they may ask you to, or they may text a code to you, for example, like a 6-digit code or what have you, when you log in to make sure it's you. And the value of MFA is that it makes it much harder for somebody to steal your password and log in from Eastern Europe or Asia or somewhere and steal your stuff. And so even if they get your password, without that additional multi-factor authentication device, they can't log in and access your data or finances or anything. So that's what MFA is. Why are we doing this now at MBARI? The main driver for this quick implementation is our insurance providers. So you've probably seen in the news over the past year or two, a lot of big ransomware incidents with places like Colonial Pipeline and JBS, the meat packing processing company, where their entire networks were infested with ransomware, and a huge ransom was demanded to return them to operations. And those are just the big ones that hit the headlines most recently, but it's been happening all over the place, and the insurance companies have been taking hundreds of millions of dollars of losses with these ransomware incidents. And so they are desperate to try and stem that tide. And we've got an ultimatum from MBARI's insurance provider that we have to implement multi-factor authentication for remote access to our network, or they will not provide coverage to MBARI. And with that kind of a demand, it was either implement it or don't have insurance, and the latter was not an option. So we scrambled to implement this because they only let us know this ultimatum about 60 days ago. So that's why we're rushing to get this rolled out and everybody ramped up and using MFA to log into MBARI from afar. Just as a side note, similar cybersecurity requirements are going to be coming down the pike. Some of you may be already aware that NSF and NOAA, for instance, have cybersecurity requirements in their federal grant funding programs now. The GoBGC program was subject to a cybersecurity review, and I foresee that's going to continue and get more stringent as time goes on. Likewise, with the new vessel and U.S. Coast Guard regulations and the DNV shipping certification program that the new vessel will be running under, those have its own cybersecurity requirements. So as a whole, I think we at MBARI needs to be prepared to have a more rigorous cybersecurity stance overall. So view this as just the first step. And we're going to try and make it as painless and as easy as possible. But that is the nature of the world we live in now, and we'll have to adapt going forward. So really quickly, I'm going to share my screen again and just show you how this works from a simple user standpoint. So You can see my screen now, and you can ignore everything on it except up here is my, and don't worry if you can't read it, but this is my VPN menu. And I'm just going to demonstrate very quickly what it's like to connect to VPN. So this is my Mac, and I have a VPN connection. You can, if you can read my screen, it says connect MBARI VPN normal, this one I've got highlighted. So when I click that, it's going to initiate a VPN connection to MBARI, and I have my username and password saved so that it would normally just do an auto login and I'd be connected right away. So I'm going to click the button, and now it's saying connecting up here, and in a moment I should get an alert on my phone. Oh, because I've got my watch. Well, we'll see. I don't know if you can see my watch, but there is an alert on my watch because I have an Apple Watch asking me to authenticate or approve this connection. Also, if I go into the Duo app on my phone, I have a little alert, and it's saying approve or deny. Am I logging in? And this is the second factor. It's already accepted my username and password, and they're saying, is this really you? So I'm going to deny this right now because if I connect it, it might drop the Zoom session. So I said deny, and now it's asking, was this a fraudulent or suspect connection that you just denied? And I'm going to say no because I'm just denying it because I want to. If you say yes, then that will alert and log in Duo that that login was not something you initiated. So, for instance, so really quick, you can see I got a VPN connection authentication failed message, and my connection did not go through. If I'd hit approve, I would have been connected. And so, oops, I'm getting some. There we go. Never mind. So that's the basic mechanism for using the Duo mobile app. And there has been some confusion among staff about whether they need to set up their phones if they're only VPNing from their computer or their laptop and so forth. And yes, that's the way it works. When you connect to VPN from any device, you'll get a prompt on your Duo mobile app, or alternatively, if you're using the hardware token, you'll have a different method to log in. So really quickly to talk about how the hardware token works. The hardware token is just this little kind of, it looks like a fish. And you may have seen the picture on our webpage about it. But when you press the fish's eyeball, it'll display a little code, and hopefully you can see that. So you get your 6-digit code there. And when you've configured your VPN connection correctly on your device, which means you cannot store your password on your device, you will have to configure it so that it prompts you to log in. And there's some other technical settings you have to make sure are enabled so that this method of login works. But you will enter your username normally. In the password field, you will enter your MBARI password, a comma, and this 6-digit code. And then that will log you in. Because all that typing might be annoying, we strongly recommend the Duo mobile app as the way to go, because it's far quicker, simpler, one tap and you're in. And going forward with, in the future, we may have to apply this Duo multi-factor authentication to other things like the web interface to email or time cards or anything else that is accessible from outside of MBARI. So long-term, the Duo mobile app is very likely to be key to your login experience. So that's the quick rundown that I have for you. So I'm very happy to take questions and so forth. Feel free to unmute yourself and or type questions in the chat.
Todd Francisco, can you run through once more time how you set up the authentication on your phone the first time?
Sure. So let's see. If we go here, I will do the whole process as myself. So I'm going to unenroll myself. What you're looking at right now is the Duo authentication administration page. So
oh, we can't see anything on the. There's...
Oh, sorry. Don't worry, you're not seeing anything important yet. Let me get myself squared away. And so right now I'm just removing my authentication. And all right, I think we're ready to go. So let me flip back here, share my screen. Sure. And so let's go to, and I need to, oh, this will take a moment here. We will send myself an enrollment email.
So we're going to get something like this, and
right. So you'll get an email that looks like this. This is the sample I have posted on the.
Okay.
So you'll get an email that looks like this.
And then we just have to click on that link.
Right, and just click on this link that's down here at the bottom, and that will
from our phone.
You can do it either way.
Okay.
I recommend doing it on your computer because you have a little bit more control. They offer some more options if you do it through the computer, and it's a little more consistent. We have encountered some devices, if you tap this link on your phone device, on certain devices, it takes you to the computer enrollment page and displays a QR code that you're supposed to scan with the phone's camera. But if it's displaying that QR code on your phone screen, it's a little hard to scan it with your phone's camera. Sure, feel free to give it a shot. And if it works fine, if it works normally, as it should on a phone, when you tap that link, it will take you to a web page, ask you a couple questions, and then give you a button to open the Duo Mobile app, and it will open in the app and you'll be done. It'll be very slick. But if it fails to give you that button to open the Duo Mobile app and it instead displays a QR code, then you'll have to abort and go to a computer and go through the method I just described on the computer side. And if I can find my, let's see if I'm gonna see where it is, because it might take a moment because there is a delay in delivering the enrollment emails. So we'll just camp here on this page and wait for it to show up. When it does, I'll proceed with enrolling myself. But while we wait, any other questions?
There was something in the chat. What do you recommend for those of us who go to see outside of Senator range?
So the Duo mobile app is not dependent on cell service. It is dependent on internet connectivity. So if you're in a place, even on a ship, where you can do a VPN connection, the Duo mobile app should work. Now, it is conceivable that an ultra-restricted network, and some ships fit that description, might have it blocked. But because Duo Mobile is an extremely popular multi-factor authentication mechanism, I'm guessing that many will allow it by default already, and if they don't, they will before too long. So I would ask the ship, if you do find that it's not coming through, ask the ship if they've blocked it and if they can release it for you. In a pinch, if they cannot get it working, we can temporarily lift the requirement for MFA for your account if you're on an expedition and need to VPN from like a UNOL ship or whatever. So hopefully that provides some relief for that anxiety. But yes, generally speaking, even on ships, it should work just fine. Let's see if it may take up to 5 minutes for it to come in. So any other questions? Nope, hopefully that's made sense. All right, so we'll give it, clean up some of this.
Hi Todd, it's Joost here. Just a quick question. It sounds like more and more things at MBARI are prompted by insurance that I'm hearing from IS. Like I'm hearing the Windows updates, making sure we're compliant there, and these. Is that common, or is it just, do we happen to have a particularly picky insurance? Or I was just curious where all these changes are coming from. Not that I'm against or anything. I'm just
right. Yes. So it's a common thing now. the insurance provider that MBARI uses is one of the largest in the world. It's called Chubb Insurance. They are one of the largest business insurance providers. They have, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of customers worldwide. And they're not alone in this requirement. So many insurance companies and other companies are using services that profile their customers for their security stance. So there are services out there. One's called BitSight, another's called Security Scorecard, and there's several others that their business is to collect data on other businesses by any means they can. And one of the ways they do it is they scan company networks like ours, looking for vulnerabilities, not with our permission or consent, they just do it. The other thing they do is they collect data on traffic coming from our network. So as you browse the web from MBARI, depending on the places you go and the types of telemetry that those destinations collect, many of those destinations sell their data to data aggregators and that eventually will find their way to companies like BitSight and Security Scorecard and so forth. And they are profiling the versions of software we're using, the versions of browsers, what the versions of OSs on your phones, on your phone browsers, et cetera, are using, and building a profile of how up-to-date and secure that company is, and then applying a rating. And then the insurance companies are paying those services, BitSight, Security Scorecard, et cetera, to get reports on their customers to assess how much of a security risk those customers are. And that's what's been done to us. And they do it to all their customers. Now, I have a philosophical disagreement with some of these like BitSight and Security Scorecard and how they assess the data they collect. They're doing it blind. They're essentially doing automated data collection from all these sources. And they don't do it with an understanding of our environment and so forth. And often the ratings are calibrated for banks and things like that that have high compliance requirements. And in those, judged against those kinds of metrics, our score has been quite low. And I don't object to pointing out, true security issues, but sometimes, if you say, well, you're not running X, Y, or Z because, a credit card processor needs to be doing these things. Well, we're not a credit card processor, so I feel that kind of judgment is unfair. But anyway, that's the kind of environment that we're having to operate within. Hopefully that made some sense.
Yeah, thanks for that.
So anyway, so I got my Duo Security enrollment email, the new one. You'll see I've been doing it a lot. But anyway, so if I click this link down here, it will take me to the setup page. And I go start setup. I'm going to enroll a mobile phone. We'll put my mobile phone in here. I trust you guys to not call me in the middle of the night, and unless it's a real emergency. And so, and I'm an iPhone user, so we hit continue. And oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, so okay, so it says I have Duo Mobile installed. I'm ready to go. So now it shows me a QR code. So I'm going to go into my phone, and I first need to get rid of the old enrollment I had there. So I'm in the Duo Mobile app. Hopefully you can see that. The MBARI entry you can see right there is for my administrative access to the Duo system, which is separate than my Duo access to MBARI as a regular MBARI user. So I'm going to tap the add button, the blue add button up in the other upper corner, and it gives me an option to use a QR code. And by the way, when the first time you do this, it'll be just one option, use a QR code. It'll be very obvious. But anyway, choose the user QR code. Now it's looking for a QR code with my camera, so I can just point that at the screen, and it immediately can tell both on the web browser and on the phone that it scanned the code. I hit done, and so I have enrolled my phone, and I click continue over here, and this is some of the options that you don't get if you click that link on your phone directly. This option, when I log in, you can choose the option to automatically send this device a Duo push. If you only enroll in Duo Mobile, that probably doesn't make a difference. You'll always get a Duo push. But if for any reason you might have multiple phones enrolled, or something like you might, for some reason, have a hardware token also. You'll probably want to set one of your devices as the automatic recipient of Duo Push. But anyway, finish enrollment and you're all done. So that's all there is to it.
To download an app at the Duo what is it called? Duo app?
The app is called Duo Mobile, and it's available on the Apple App Store, for the iPhone, iOS devices, and the Google Play Store for Android devices. So you just go to the regular App Store for whatever device you're putting it on, and Duo Mobile will be available there.
It's Duo Mobile with no spaces, or just
With a space.
It'll find
So,
it'll find it.
Yeah, it's Duo space mobile.
Okay, and we can do that now. For example, even before we should do
Correct.
it.
Correct. Yes, you can download it at any time ahead of getting your enrollment email. And as you may have seen in my all hands or on-site emails, we have sent the enrollment emails to OED and ITD so far, and things are going quite well. So we will, continue. Haven't decided yet exactly which divisions we'll do next. We'll probably get bold and maybe do all of engineering and then all of science, or vice versa, since those are large groups of folks. We've been throttling it just in case we get overwhelmed with questions and things like that. But so far it's been very manageable. And also, if you are in need of getting enrolled quickly, like you're traveling this coming weekend or something and you want to be enrolled in advance, just let us know. We can take care of you very quickly. I know I have a request like that pending in my inbox right now.
Seems pretty easy, but I'm sure we'll.
Yeah, it sounds scary. I mean, it's anything new. It's a little weird, and particularly when it's going to control your access to MBARI, that can be intimidating. But the system actually works quite well, and we're here to help with any oddities or hiccups. And so, we think it'll be second nature before you know it.
So Todd, it's Kathy. Should we only have the Duo Mobile on one device?
That's best. I mean, you can install it on multiple, but only one can be active at a time.
Okay.
And so that, I recommend only having it on one. And if you decide you need to switch to another, then you can let us know and we'll deactivate the first one and you can enroll the second one.
And then once we are all set up, we can VPN from other computers and it will talk to the Duo Mobile.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So just by virtue of hitting the VPN connection, regardless of which computer you're using, it will want to authenticate?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Todd, I have a question if it's okay to move on.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna switch to a collaborator pretty soon, and maybe I missed it. I just had to jump in, but did you talk about how this will affect collaborators?
Yeah, so it will affect collaborators exactly the same. So collaborators with remote network access will be required to be enrolled in Duo Mobile as well. And so depending on how smooth your transition to collaborator is, as far as whether your MBARI account gets deactivated in between and that kind of stuff. But regardless, we are setting collaborators up with Duo Mobile as well. Our stance on collaborators and contractors and so forth is that we prefer that the collaborators and contractors use the Duo Mobile app only. We prefer not to issue a hardware token to collaborators and contractors because it's harder to get them to the people and get them back when the collaboration ends and that kind of thing. But if there's a special circumstance that requires the hardware token, we can work through that. but the
Okay.
enrollment process is exactly the same for a collaborator. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you, Todd.
Yep.
If you're VPNing into a machine at MBARI, and once you're into that machine, do you still have to use Duo Mobile to log into other machines?
No, as long as you're not making another VPN connection, which you shouldn't need to do. Once you're connected to VPN, then you will not get prompted by Duo Mobile again, as you like SSH around or anything like that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, if there are no further questions, and I don't see any hands raised in the participants list or so forth, I hope this was useful, and thank you very much for your attention and cooperation. This will definitely, on the positive side, this will definitely keep the bad guys out, at least from VPN. So that'll be a good thing.
I hear Google's going to do this type of stuff also, dual authentication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suspect, basically all the IT providers and so forth are likely going to do something like this in various shapes and forms and so forth.
Well, like for your Google Drive stuff, it's going to happen too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. Oh, and just along those lines, I did get one question, not in this session, but earlier. One of the staff had gone to the Duo site and read a bunch of documentation, and the Duo Mobile, the Duo service as a whole, not just the Duo Mobile app, but the service as a whole can do a lot more than just multi-factor authentication. It can help do things like enforce the level of operating system and application versions are installed on client machines to help address that issue I described, where BitSite and other services are profiling companies and downgrading their security rating if they've got devices with older versions of stuff. So MFA or Duo Mobile and Duo the service can help enforce a baseline of versions and so forth. So the point of me describing all that is that if you do go to the Duo site and start reading up about Duo, there's a ton of stuff there that is not applicable to our implementation at this time. So the only thing we're using Duo for is the multi-factor authentication feature. And so it's very easy to go down a rabbit hole at the Duo site with all the documentation they have available. So my recommendation is focus on the documentation we provided on the IS pages. We do link to some specific Duo documentation. At the bottom of the overview page, there's 2 links for troubleshooting. One for troubleshooting Duo Mobile on iOS, iPhones, and another for Android. Those are useful pages if you run into any trouble with the app on your device. But don't worry too much if you get lost in the weeds out on the Duo company website with lots of different features that don't look like what we're doing, because they offer a lot of stuff that we aren't doing. And always, feel free to ask us questions as you get set up and so forth. We're happy to help. All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, maybe we can wrap up and keep the recording to a reasonable length. So I'll send a link out to onsite with the link to the recording once I get it. This is being recorded by Zoom and so forth. So thank you very much for attending and your questions. And if you think of any later, feel free to let us know. So,
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.